Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lizard Brains podcast. I'm your host, DJ Alessandrini. I'm joined by my co-host, Tom O'Gorman. Tom, how's it going?
I'm good, but I got to correct you a little bit there. You said you're the host, DJ Alessandrini, but you are the host, track record holder, DJ Alessandrini.
Woo! So hold on. Is it track
New record.
Is it track record holder or like that class record holder at NCM? Because track record holder means
Okay.
I would went fastest on the track, right?
Record holder. Let's go with that.
I'm a record holder. You know what? I bet we set some records with this podcast.
Did we? Have we?
If we get specific enough, we've said it.
we're the best podcast that has to do with automotive without automotive in our name, with the most misleading title that you could have that makes people think you have a conspiracy podcast, but actually is about driving.
Sometimes I wonder if the podcast would be doing way better if it just said like we talk about driving and like that was the name of the podcast.
You mean like track walking?
Yeah.
Jeez,
like
that's a good name.
No, track walking is a great name. But
dang it.
What if like next year rebrand, we drop Lizard Brains and everyone that's an OG, they'll know. And we talk about racing podcasts.
I think driving. We're stuck. When you got a good thing going, whether it makes sense or not, you got to lean in.
See, people
That's
are saying
how I ended
no.
up with stupid children's glasses on my face all the time.
You should have picked like some nicer sunglasses to be your thing, Tom.
You don't pick when things start to work. You just go.
Okay.
We don't get to pick being Lizard Brains. Nothing now. We're just Lizard Brains. That's all we are.
Yeah. Okay.
People have to figure it out.
I got to do a lot of cool stuff this weekend, Tom, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But I was wearing all Lizard Brain stuff at Time Trial Nationals, and people who didn't know about the podcast would ask about it, and I would like the I'm riding by on my scooter like sales pitch for the podcast is lizards chase dopamine just like we chase dopamine out on the racetrack, and then I would just keep riding. I don't know if that got us any viewers or not, but hey, if you saw me riding by on a scooter and now you're here, welcome to the podcast.
You just on a bullhorn and just saying that at people without context, because you didn't mention anything about a podcast in that. You just said that to somebody, right?
No, I was wearing my Lizard Brains podcast like shirts and stuff.
Oh, I thought you were just a guy riding around screaming about lizards.
Lizards chase
what's
dopamine.
He talking about? I guess he's got a podcast. I don't know.
Lizards chase dopamine. I'm just like a crazy person sitting on a box.
Yeah.
You hear me?
I'm glad that wasn't you. But I do want to hear about your weekend, guys. I got sick last week, and I felt this little tickle in the back of my throat on my birthday, Tuesday. Wednesday, I woke up and I was like, uh-oh. But I don't know how long this is going to last. And I'm so glad I didn't go. I decided not to go, mainly because I was rooming with these guys, and I didn't want to get anybody sick, and I just like felt like crap. If I had had a ride, I probably would have pushed to go, and then I would have been miserable while I was there, and I'm really glad I didn't do that. But I didn't do a lot this weekend except watch some racing on YouTube. So I have a couple of little stories about that, but I want to hear about your week.
I missed you, Tom.
Oh,
I did. In like the downtime, and I was like, because I'm just thinking of all the other Time Trial Nationals. Because I don't think I've done a Time Trial Nationals without you. I think you've always been to one. And when we're done being race car drivers, we always just like scooter around the paddock and like socialize. And I didn't realize that was like a Time Trial Nationals routine for me, is when the track goes cold, me and Tom are hanging out. But it was, and I felt it once the track went cold, and I was like, crap, I don't have Tom to hang out with. I felt it. I didn't know that I would feel that, but I felt it when you weren't there. So you were missed.
I was missing it as well. And this was my first year. I was extra excited to kind of go without like an actual roster of coaching, because I haven't gone in 4 years without really setting up coaching and stuff. So I was like actually going to have some hangout time, and I made the right choice, but I definitely missed it. And I missed you too. I missed seeing everybody having a good time online. Excuse me. Was it as fun as it looked?
Yeah. You know what? I was I was very much an old man this way. I think I went to bed at like 9:30 every single night because it was like, I didn't do like any like track hangs afterwards. I Mike Kubiak, the my coworker who I was co-driving with this weekend, he was like laser focused on driver development, and I was feeding off of that. And we were just looking at videos and squiggly lines like all the time. And when it was the end of the day, like we'd both be kind of tired and like we could have socialized, but we just went back to the Airbnb and looked at videos and like came up with like a game plan of like what to do, what to work on like the next day. And then by the time we were done with that, it was like, all right, I'm tired. And go to bed. We wake up and like compete again. I know it was great. You know how one lap kind of fools you into thinking this is every day forever? Like where you
Yes,
wake
yes.
up and drive a race car and then you like go to sleep and then you wake up and you drive a race car and you do that like enough days in a row. Time Trial Nationals kind of does that because it's 4 days in a row of driving a car on a racetrack. I think that's the thing that's special with Time Trial Nationals compared to other events is literally like the 4 days in a row part of the event.
I was actually going to ask you about this because being there, it flies by
It
for me
does.
anyway. But not going and not doing anything else distracting me, I was like, they're only halfway through. Damn, they're still down there. It's Sunday. They're still down there. And I was going to ask, did it feel too long? But clearly not.
No, it well, I think so like I only did one session on Saturday and then oh no, I did another session later in the afternoon because I thought, maybe the track's like kind of good. You know how sometimes tracks are really fast, like right after it rains and it like kind of dries off and like maybe the track's like super fast, right? So I went
Yep.
out in that session where it was like the track just dried off. Because I was just chasing lap time the whole time. Honestly, I wasn't really paying attention to like the format or whatever. I really just wanted to get the track record. And I wasn't sure how fast Mike's car would be, but literally during the practice session, I knew because my practice session they sent cars to the pit lane. I I was pulling up like 5 minutes before because normally we're you know how like you get in the car like last second and that works for you.
Yeah.
Me scrambling for belts, that's my thing. So
Oh, it
scrambling
gets
to
you
put
going.
yeah, I'm like, "Oh my god, we're gonna do a good lap because I can't find that shoulder belt." Like that's how it works for me. I don't know why. But um so
You need to do
I
more endurance racing.
I pull up scrambling for the shoulder belts and then they start sending cars and I'm like, "Oh crap, like the 5 minute warning wasn't 5 minutes till we pull out of here. It's 5 minutes till we're on track." And at 5 minutes they sent us out to the pit lane and I wasn't prepared to like not be ready because first off, I've never bolted into this. Well, I guess I bolted in it earlier in the year, but not to where I have any kind of familiarity with the car. And the seats, it's not a containment seat. It's just like this little tillet. I think it's got a tillet seat. It's just like this little carbon like bowl that you sit in. Do you know what I'm talking about, Tom?
I think it's tilt. No, Tilton is the pedal box.
Tillet? I think it's tillet.
I know what you're talking about, but now I can't remember it.
Someone.
Uh-oh.
Uh oh.
Anyway, go ahead. We'll
Anyways,
get
it's just
there.
like, but it's you know how like normally you like throw the belts like over the containment like hoops, and then like when you reach up,
Yes.
like it's super easy to grab. Well, this didn't have that, so they would kind of just fall everywhere. And over the weekend, I like figured out Mike's uh method, and you kind of just like threw them off to the side, so like the lap belts and the shoulder belts kind of sat next to each other. But yeah, anyways, I went out for my first practice session, and I was driving through traffic, and getting a lap time, even though it's just practice, is kind of important because it kind of sets you where you're at in the grid.
Yeah.
And uh And because Time Trial Nationals, SCC, it's like scored in segments. Basically, every segment counts because you might go out, like, I might try to set, yes, Dan Sims literally posted the seat, except it has like a red fabric thing on the back.
So
Um,
I've seen that logo before, and I've never processed it as C's or are they L's? They're L's. I thought they were C's.
and it's a terrible logo.
Ticket.
It's a terrible logo,
Anyway,
and
sorry.
the seat totally works for Mike. He loves that thing, but man, I do not like that seat. it was giving me like lower back problems all weekend because like when I would bolt in, it would kind of like squish me into a ball
Oh,
because like the shape of the seat.
like you were meant to be reclined, but the car didn't need you to be reclined, so you ended up like
Yeah.
weirdly tucked into it or
Yeah,
something?
it was
Okay, I
like
get what
well,
you
it was
mean.
like my I was like folded forward, and then in the like being folded because I like to be belted in like super tight. Um, so in the process of being belted in super tight, and then it doesn't have like shoulder. You guys are gonna have to look up the seat just so you understand what I'm talking about right now. But it doesn't have like shoulder supports, so it like the seat kind of ends up on your ribs. It kind of feels like a karting seat when you're like driving.
I was gonna say it looks exactly like a karting seat
Yeah,
almost
so like you
with
like
a
when
high back.
yep, yeah, with a high back. It's a karting seat with a high back. So it like you feel the seat into your ribs just like you would in a cart. So you kind of have to like brace yourself a little bit because you can't have your shoulders like slumping over like the side of the seat. Like you won't have any control over the wheel, right? So you do have to kind of brace yourself. But being like tucked into a ball and like having to brace yourself, I was just like every time I was getting out of that car, I felt like an 80-year-old man trying to get out of this car because like I was hardly functional. Um, but besides that, the car was awesome. It was so good. I didn't expect it to be as fast as it was, like lap time wise. Um, my best lap in practice was 2:12.8, and that was with like I was just nothing was like smoothed out. Everything was like pretty jagged, and somebody was released out of pits, and they raced me to turn two. So then I like stopped, looked at them. They pointed me by, but then they went. But then they were like, "Wait, I pointed them by." So then they stopped. So then I went, and then I was like, "Wait, are they actually letting me go?" We had this huge awkward exchange that cost me like 3 seconds. So like literally that first session, my optimal was a 2:09, and I'm like, "Oh hell yeah!" Like we're totally getting the record. And then I was chasing that for like the rest of the weekend. So I'm like, "Ah, can I just get the record?" So that's what like the weekend felt like most of the time, but you only have like that first shot because the morning, like we'd see it in the data lines. The morning was so much faster, like even just in a straight line, it was just so much faster, oddly
Yeah.
enough. And then you would have more grip. Like it's just it looked like you were driving almost a different track, like the morning cold sessions because it's October, whatever. So it was like super cold. Those are the only sessions that mattered. All the other sessions was practicing in the car for the next time I got to drive it in the morning, basically, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So on Friday morning, I had my shot and somebody was doing a cool down lap and got in my way. Yeah.
What?
I I was pretty mad.
I clearly
I went up and confronted him and he was very sorry. So I let him fly a little bit, but basically the gist of the conversation was do better than you've been doing because I was on pace for the record again. So that was Friday. Saturday they like do the tracks, like they do sprints, and then they like segment off the north course, and you run like 3 laps on it.
Yep.
I hear that it will be cumulative. I could say this word not on the podcast, but on the podcast it's my kryptonite. Um, it will be it. All those times will add together in future iterations, but this time for some reason it was only just like your fastest lap. Cumulative. I can thank you, Zach. When he writes it, I can say it. So thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. um,
You get it tattooed on your forefinger or something. So every time it comes up in your life, you can look down.
I've been saying the word a
Cumulative.
lot lately, so maybe that's not the worst. That's not the worst idea ever.
Hey, practice makes perfect. That's you always preach it.
So, anyways, the sessions after that weren't the fastest. So, and that lap where I was impeded, and he didn't impede me that much, but what impeded me was I was catching him and I expected him to point me by, and then he didn't, and then he was messing up in front of me. And so I felt like I had to leave a little bit of margin because first off, he should have pointed me by and then he didn't. So now I'm questioning like, okay, how with it is this person? Second, they should be going much faster than me, and eventually they were like throughout the weekend because the class that they're in should be much faster than me. But why am I catching them? Oh, look, now they're trying to drive away from me and they're making a bunch of mistakes in front of me, and I'm seeing all this happening in front of me as I'm trying to set like a track record lap.
Yeah.
So, and then out of 10, which is like the last slow corner, I had to wait to get on throttle or I would have ran into him. So
Well, let me ask, what lap was it?
it was lap 2.
You said people get 2 laps.
What do you mean?
Last week's episode.
Yeah.
No. You said when you catch somebody, you get 2 laps.
The guy was on a cooldown lap, Tom.
Oh, okay. I forgot about that part. Yeah, that's not good. I don't know. Okay. I think that conversation do better is actually needs to be had sometimes. I've had that with people before, and like most recently in GLTC, where especially if someone disappoints me, all I'm like,
You're like, why?
if you have remorse, I'm not going to make you feel worse, but like also like, yes, you need to acknowledge that you need to do better. That
Yeah.
wasn't okay.
And you know what? This individual did. They did do better for the rest of the weekend. I didn't see them causing
Perfect.
any issues for the rest of the weekend. So maybe they were just like getting some rust off. Maybe they were like overloaded on bandwidth. Whatever. It just sucked. I'm glad that I got another shot. Because it literally came Sunday morning was my last and only shot to do it, and I had to wait for it to show up. And I think there's a conversation with it. It rained on Saturday, and they basically kind of like changed the whole format of the event. But I think that works for SCCA time trials, and hear me out. I don't think SCCA time trials should be this like super ultra lizard thing. I think it should be like a track day with transponders, and there's like specific groups of cars that are like remotely competitive with each other. So like it's like track day plus. Because I think if you turn it into literally, and they would have to change the whole format of the whole thing, because if the wet times counted, because there was people in my class that were in different groups of me, so I would have went out in full wet, and by the time they ran, it would have been dry. And if that's the segment time, then I lose. Like I might have just lost the whole event right there. So if they do keep those results, and you're trying like super hard and you're trying to be like a super lizard about it, your whole event's ruined. What are you doing? So I think it kind of, because it's so like so friendly for people that are like, I don't know, I'd go do a track day with a transponder, right? Like that's the crowd that they're getting, which is, I think that holds a very valid spot in the spectrum of time trials and setting lap times and stuff. You can have we're trying to set our fastest laps like in the, group 1, group 2, group 3, like the advanced, like do better than you've been doing groups, right? And then you have the rest of the groups, which is people that are figuring it out. They're trying it out, right? But if it gets too serious, then it becomes like a spending battle, and you don't have a place for like these street cars to like come play. Right now, there really isn't a place for street cars to play with a transponder on it. SCCA time trials is like really the only one.
True. Competitively,
Like somewhat competitively. Like if you're getting to the point where like you're really trying and you like have a purpose built car for this, there's so many other options for you. But if you're like,
true.
I want to go chase some lap times and see my name on a leaderboard, but I don't want a fully gutted like prepped race car that I have to trailer to the racetrack, SCCA time trials. That's the only option.
Yeah, I agree with you. I always tell people to start there if they don't have like Grid Life. You need like a race car to be competitive in time attack.
Even Sunday Cup.
GTA is pretty similar with less competition. So like I'm like, if you don't know what car you already want or already have, or like if you want the car you already have, like do SCCA first. But I would so to clarify, it's because you like, instead of everybody in your class running at the same time and it rains and everybody has the same conditions, there could be like somebody in the novice group like an hour and a half later
Yeah.
that could just like get completely different conditions that could mean they like completely lose or completely win. That's why they did that.
That's so I was trying I think if they stuck to that verbiage, I don't think there'd be any question about like, oh, like rain day canceled the thing. But I don't think they necessarily stuck to that verbiage And so the competition level, I fully agree with like, okay, we need to change up the format of the competition so it's like still fair. And maybe that should be like discussed beforehand of like how that should work. Like, hey, in the event that it's that the conditions on the track aren't even, then this is how we're handling that, right? And then they can keep their format and it's like a known quantity. It's not like I was really looking forward. I remember when I woke up and I saw that it was gonna rain. I'm like, oh hell yeah, because
Mm.
I was competing against David Marcus, and I was like I think that's advantage me, even though he's on Bridgestones and I'm on Nexons, and Nexons are way worse in the water. But like I was excited to compete in the on a wet track because I think that's fun. Uh, a bunch of other people were nervous about it, which I understand, but like you only have to drive as fast as you want to drive. You don't have to go faster than you want to go. Like nobody's telling you to do that, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's the proper attitude when you go out on the wet track. Like explore, learn, like be a little bit of a scientist. Like don't just like cross your fingers and hope for the best. Yeah. Like that's a
Me, me,
terrible way
me,
to
me,
do
me,
that.
me.
Yeah. And I think
The Muppets.
some people do that. Some people will like they I don't think some people will acknowledge how much rain driving is different. And if you're only listening to this episode and you haven't listened to the 117 118 episodes before this, we have an episode specifically about rain. I don't remember which episode it is, so if somebody wants to post it in the chat, that would be useful. But we have like a breakdown of rain driving, and I take that, listen to that one, and it will help you understand what you should be looking for and doing. I think Tom's telling me 40.
It's episode 40.
Yeah,
Dang, that was a long time ago.
that was a
We
long
were
time
talking about
ago.
that.
But that episode's still relevant because pavement is still the same. So
Yeah. And believe it or not, physics, they're also the
they're
same.
still the same. Wow.
Crazy.
I need a button that's like breaking news. um so I the part of the reason that we were given that we were kind of like sitting out the rain was because like 16 cars got balled up at VIR earlier in the year. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good reason. But like,
No.
I kind of get it. But if if the track was open to go do laps and it was competition, we would have as a group, as a community, we would have seen a couple cars crashed. Right?
Say that again. Are you saying
Like I there's two different ways to look at it. There's the ultra competitive perspective that we come from, where it's like go out there, learn, do your best. Like you'll never know. Like it's a thing to learn. It's a thing to like push your driving to the next level, right? Like that's kind of like that's where we're at, right? But if the in the lens of the SCCA time trials being like a more entry level casual thing, if you don't send people out there to compete in the wet, there's a couple more people who don't crash their car.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then they're more likely to stick around and like keep learning because chances are if they crash their car, they're done.
Yeah. I get what you're saying now. Okay. I didn't follow the first time, but when I saw the post that was like an update in the Facebook group. So obviously you guys had already known about it, but when I saw it, my initial reaction was like, "Oh my god, are you serious?" Like obviously I love driving in the rain. My initial reaction to any time rain is factored in as like a reason not to compete is immediately like I get so excited to compete in the rain. Like that's
And I was
I don't
too.
understand. Right. It's just like that's like the one of my absolute favorite things. And you're on a complete roulette to the universe on whether you get to do it or not. And when somebody who has control over that, like that's completely out of our control to get to do this amazing experience. And then when somebody's just like, no, we're not going to do it. It doesn't seem insert anything here. I'm like, like that's so sad. It's just sad. But then I was thought about it a little longer, and I agree with you that especially in the space that it fills for time trial, like adjusting the competitive environment, especially with the motivation of adjusting the competitive environment. I think the travesty is that the track wasn't still open to go learn something. But I get, I guess I get to your point. What I think long term, they definitely need a systematic like, if this is the circumstance, then this is going to happen because it it has to be case by case, but it also can't be random. Kind of like some of the penalties we've experienced recently seem a little more like randomized when there's like there should be a table of like if this happens, then this happens. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, and then I also think it's completely fair to look at people's tires and be like, we recommend you don't, or we're not allowing you to.
Yeah. Like
Like
at VIR, so many
if you don't
people
have a certain amount of
crashed.
tread, or if you're like literally on a tire that all of us are terrified of,
Yeah.
you know, like saving people from themselves is still a part of that. But I think the opportunity to go get better at it, to Richard's point in the live chat, you can't get better if you never try. I think like adjusting the competitive environment to de-incentivize those giant risks, helping people maybe understand like this is a bad idea for you and here's why, but like let the track be open for general use and then keep keep the spirits high so that people are thrilled. I remember some of my favorite track nights were in the wet because there were so few people and the people who were there stayed because they wanted to do the wet. And when I was operating track night and there were still like 17 people at the end of the day in the pouring rain, like lapping and lapping and lapping, that was so exciting for me. I loved that.
I got heart flutters hearing about that, Tom.
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm trying to
oh,
remember. There was one that was just like incredible. And this one little Miata stayed till the very end in the novice group and did like every lap. I'm trying to remember where it was though. I want to say it was NOLA, but that's not right. Anyway, that was my thought. I tried really hard to stay off the keyboard warriorness about it though, because I'm like, this isn't an event you're even at. It doesn't
yeah.
affect you. Let's be adults here. Let them do their thing.
I almost wonder if like maybe it's yeah, there needs to be a shift. It's like, okay guys, the rain kind of affected the competition. So right now we're not going to have competition, but if you want to go drive in the rain, we highly suggest it. It's super fun. It's basically free. You don't use consumables. Just go out there and learn and have fun, right?
Yeah.
Like let's go have fun with our cars instead of like aim for a lap time. Like just go play in the wet.
Someone should use that. You said fun with cars?
Yeah. I think that's pretty catchy, huh?
That's catchy.
That's
Someone should
literally
use that.
in case you live under a rock. That's SCCA's like motto.
Yeah. Although I do think there's how do you feel about when competition is affected by rain? Okay, on either side, when it's like autocross and it rains on somebody and not you, or vice versa, or like if they just told you like we're not racing because it's wet.
I think it's a little bit of a well, okay. If we're not racing because it's wet, it depends on the format of
Those
the
are two different
competition.
questions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
two
depends on the
different questions.
format of the competition. If we're all running at the same time, it's like, come on. Like at least from my perspective, it's like I have this built skill because I was willing to learn it, and now I get a chance to use it. Let me go use it. Right? That's how I feel.
Yeah.
um, in terms of like where weather's like a little bit of a spoiler, I think for like pro solo and especially pro solo, but like even just regular autocross, I think rain just kind of messes everything up. It kind of I I don't like how it gives some people a disadvantage and some people an advantage relative to like the rest of the group just because of the format of the competition.
Yeah. I have a theory that I think solves it for time attack though.
What's that?
I don't understand why time attack organizations don't say if if 50% of the sessions are one weather condition or no, or the other weather condition, only they count. So if it's all dry with one wet session, the wet session is not going to count because it's 50% dry or more. But so say you get 6 sessions, 5 of them are dry and one's wet. Obviously the dry ones count. But then what about one weekend where like
It's just raining the whole
three
time.
are wet, 3 are wet and 3 are dry, or 4 are wet and 2 are dry? Like in my opinion, the you can make the call as the organizer. Obviously, there's different levels of wet that affect things very quickly. But I think in like actual time attack, especially when you get like to the quote unquote higher, like the more competitive levels of grid life and GTA and stuff, like you should have to go drive in the rain if it's majority rain. I don't see any reason that you shouldn't have to do that.
So
I remember there was one grid life where everybody got one dry session, and then it was wet the rest of the weekend at Mid Ohio, and nobody was going out. I just think that sucks. Like you should
yeah,
have to go out and compete in the rain. If you're at that level and that's what you entered, that's what I think.
okay, yeah, I kind of agree with that just for the fact of it's like for example, let's say it looks like Sunday afternoon it's going to be dry, but Saturday it's wet and Sunday morning it's wet. So you might have people that showed up to go drive on a racetrack and then they sit around for 3/4 of the weekend and then they go do their one session in the dry.
And that's like the reality of it. But I think my premise of where I stand on it is you should be incentivized to have the skill and the ability to go turn a fast lap in the wet.
Well, so that's I think the segments that SCCA does is cool. Like if Grid Life did now they do that bracket thing, which I think is like super cool, where it's like you have to
Yeah.
qualify for the bracket and like that's because when they're having like their shootout and it's wet, like that's so cool. Like I think that fixes it. But other organizations, what would be cool is if you had it like split into segments where like the times are added together. Uh, but I understand that sometimes these like time attack cars or these time trial cars are a little bit of one lap wonders and you might only get it working for one session.
Maybe.
But
I just think it would be cool to have a rule that was like whatever the majority weather condition is between rain or dry. So like it could be anything. It could be literally like there's no rain in the forecast, and then you get sessions on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and all of a sudden midday Saturday it's raining the rest of the weekend. Like at Pitt, that happened at Pittsburgh, and like you don't turn a wet lap, but then all of a sudden over a majority of the sessions were wet, and you just didn't go out. Like your drive times shouldn't be competitive.
well, that's why I think that when Grid Life does the bracket, I think that kind of fixes it because
It does, yeah.
you are kind of forced to drive like throughout the weekend, which I think is good for the sport. Um, and the other way I think you do that is with the segments, where like segments add together. So like let's say if Saturday's 100% wet and Saturday's time is added to Sunday's time, well then you better go out in the wet and get like a good time. The problem where that breaks down for the SCCA is you're split into groups of like experience and pace, not split into groups of class. And I don't see how they could do it any other way because there's literally like novice HPDE drivers out there like figuring out racetrack stuff. Like
Yeah.
there's no other way to do that unless these events get so popular where they're like selling out where like they can have like separate novice type of events, but they're not at that point. So you can't do that.
I also think that we are maybe not like we're kind of flitters, like we flit from thing to thing.
A
I
flitter.
think like the flitter, yeah, well, that's
Yeah,
what we
yeah,
are.
that's a word.
If you like, I don't think our opinions match the true time attacker mentality
No, I don't
of
think they
like the
do.
people that only do time attack. I think they want to go as like the fastest lap counts, like all the things we're saying. I don't think even time attackers would be like, I want to do that. I think they're
Well,
like, no, we want it to be as fast as possible in the dry, best conditions, fastest lap wins.
yep. I will say because I was chasing that track record, I was kind of having like my own like old school Grid Life event where it's like literally just fastest lap of the weekend, right? Because that's what I was going
Hmm.
for was the record, and I just so happened to win like trying to get it right. Um, and that feeling when I that or Sunday morning, and I knew it was like this is it. This is the first lap's gonna suck because the next one's cold. Don't really do that much. The second lap is it. That's the only lap I'm gonna get, and that's the only chance I get. That pressure was cool. That pressure was really fun to like do it right now, and then doing it, not knowing if it was enough because I wasn't sure what David Marcus's time was, and then coming into the paddock to find Mike, and he like was like he had his arms up like woo you did it, but I was like, are you cheering because I got a 209 finally, or did I get the record? Did I beat David? And sharing that excitement with Mike, that might be one of my favorite moments of the year, Tom, because I
That
have a video.
video
I have
is
a video on
so
my.
cool.
I have a video on my Facebook. You know what's kind of funny? I like pulled off. I was pulling off track and I turned off the camera and I'm like driving and I'm like wondering. I'm like, did I get it? Did I get it? And I'm like, I could feel a reaction coming on camera. Ugh. Like Like one way or the other, I want to capture like this moment of like, oh man, I almost had it, or like oh my god, I can't believe we finally did it, or whatever. But like sharing that moment with Mike was yeah, that was just so cool. And remember we've talked about this on the podcast before, where like jumping in on somebody else's excitement just makes it like so much more. If
Hmm.
Mike is like he's like one of the he's a good human, everyone. Like Mike Kubiak, good human, because like if he was just completely in his own head or focused on his own session, he would have came in, he would be like, "Hey, good job. All right." And then he like starts getting the car ready for himself. Then I would have been like, "Yeah, I did it." And then like that would have been it. Like I would have felt like out of place, like celebrating, but like Mike's celebrating is making me celebrate, and then I'm celebrating, and he's celebrating, and we're just like so excited. He's excited because he was talking about how cool it would be if his car like was a record holder at like NCM, like for time trial nationals, and I'm excited because one, I wanted it for myself, but also I wanted to give him that as the car owner, where his car is the record holder at the track, and like just the anticipation of it like leading up to that like that single lap, and then actually putting it together was like a just a super feel good feeling.
Yeah,
So
that video is so cool. I was like, I got the vicarious high from that video. I was like wanting to celebrate with you guys
yeah,
too.
dude, it was so good.
And I was also like, I haven't celebrated like that in such a long time.
Same,
I'm like
same.
so jealous.
I'm trying to think of the last time I celebrated like that. Like I don't think I've done that at an autocross event. At least not in a while.
No, good thing
Maybe
you filmed it. That's awesome.
yeah, maybe my last GLTC win.
That was pretty good.
That
That
was
was
a
fun.
while ago. I mean, I cried. I cried after that win. I don't think I didn't cry after this. but but yeah, this
Was
it's
that
just
2021?
yeah, it was 2021, yeah. Um and then I was pretty pumped like some one lap drives, but I don't know, you can't come across the line and be like, "Oh my god." Like over a fourth place like overall.
Yeah. I don't there's something about celebrating that usually feels tacky to me unless it's like such a genuine moment like you captured, or like there are some videos of my autocross runs or my TT Nats run at the Corvette
Yeah.
was very similar. This was in 2022. I had the ZR1 that we used on one lap, and Steve bought me these sticky tires to run it. So I was in unlimited, but I wanted to be the fastest car there, and I ended up being the fastest car there. But it was the same scenario where, like, the Friday session that was supposed to be fast got ruined by somebody else doing something. Then it wasn't the same format for Saturday, so we had to just sit and wait till Sunday for that cool session to come back
Yep.
around. And it
And
came across, and
and
it
you
was
had
like
that one
not even a
shot.
lap. Right, literally one shot. It was the same scenario where I was going out and like preheating my tires like crazy because they needed so much heat. But yeah, I came across the line. They have the board there, right, like you can see your lap time right away, and I knew what I wanted to hit, and I hit the lap time, and I was like thrilled. So you like let out a scream. But if you, I don't know, I when I see people get out like maybe not victory lane, but in general, if you just like if you celebrate a little wrong, it's a little extra. So I usually don't do
It
that
like
celebrating
it has
unless it
to
just
fit it.
happens right away.
Well, like yeah. Like everyone's seen that where it's like too much celebration. You're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
literally.
Wait, can I tell a story about this?
Hold on. There we have Ito Waxman in the audience, and there's literally a viral video of him freaking out over an autocross run. I think it has like 30,000. I say viral. It's viral for motorsport stuff. It has like 30,000 views on YouTube. I bet you could find it.
What? I haven't seen this video. I'm gonna have to look that up. Poor guy's just getting talked about. Can't do anything about it. I was so quick detour. I was watching. Are you aware of the FIA Motorsports games? Do you know what that is?
Like the company that went bankrupt?
No, it just happened this weekend. So it's like the Olympics of motorsports,
Oh,
and
no, I
it's
didn't know
owned by
about that.
S. You never okay? I didn't. I knew about it, but it doesn't seem like a big deal. And I was surprised at the number of people that saw it this weekend. They're like, "That's a thing." So it's like the Olympics of motorsports, and it's owned by SRO. So it's the same people who do like GT3 racing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They do it every other year. There've been three, and they have every discipline from like GT cars, TCR, Formula 4. karting of different ages and levels. They had off-road rally stages plus buggies, drifting. They had what do they call it? Car something. It was autocross basically, but I got to talk about it a second. And then what else? Um, sim racing. So they had iRacing Formula cars, and then they had Assetto Corsa Competizione GT3 cars. So this is like it's broad scope of disciplines.
Yeah,
It's like a
but
big
all
thing,
motorsports.
all motorsports. But it's my impression of watching it the last couple times. It doesn't necessarily pull like the most competitive people. It pulls the people who like know about it.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the greatest like thing to watch. Every time I've turned it on, it's been pretty boring, to be honest. But this weekend I was watching, I turned it on, it was dirt buggies, and it must have been the youngest kids because these little people in these little carts were like so tiny, and they were doing this little off road buggy course that looked like they were basically flat out, and there were only two of them. And at the end, they do the whole pomp and circumstance for the this kid wins the gold medal and this kid wins the silver medal, and they both pull up, and it turns out one like the kid from Spain, and it's like all the people with the Spanish flags are around this kid, like he just won something like that's going to change his life. When when in reality, it's like you won two little off road buggies at this little thing.
Wait, there was only
Like I don't
two?
know. There were only two carts in this entire race. So one was gold and one was
No!
silver, and they weren't anywhere near each other. So then they fit, and it was like they won the Olympics. And it
Was
was
there like
okay, that's a
fireworks
lot.
and stuff shooting off and
Not quite fireworks, but it was a lot. It was a lot for a two cart race.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. Hold on.
but the other part is
the-
go ahead, go ahead.
There was one more thing from Time Trial Nationals
Hmm.
that I thought was super cool that I got to do. So they asked me to do like a hay ride where they threw a bunch of people on a trailer and then they towed it around the racetrack. And I stood up in
Hmm.
front of the trailer and like talked about the racetrack and like the things I'm looking for and like, hey, look, notice how the grass is pulled away from the pavement here. That's because people are driving there, like kind of like pointing at stuff. And I had like a captive audience of like, I don't know, 40 people. And most of them, most of the time, were actually paying attention to the things I was saying. And I could see like little light bulbs like kicking off in the crowd of people as we're like being drug around on this trailer.
That's cool.
That was super cool. SCCA people, if you're listening to this, I'll do that again if I'm at another time trial event because that was. It doesn't have to be a hayride. It doesn't have to be Halloween themed, but like that was cool. I really really enjoyed that, and I think people got a lot from that.
How many other people were walking up to you all weekend because of that? They were on your hayride, and now you were like a reference for them all weekend.
Yeah,
There
people
had
would.
to be a couple.
Yeah, there was a couple people that would come up and be like, "Hey, because I was talking about how the grass changes on your entry." Is that Josh Murphy was on the hayride? He just said, "I think I was one of those light bulbs you saw." Um, I was talking about on turn 12, so Deception, how the grass changes like at the turn in because that's where people aren't driving on the edge of the pavement anymore, and it was a little tough to see looking backwards at it because it's hard to look forward because there's a truck in our way. But I was like, like when you guys go out for your outlap, I want you to notice how this grass changes, and that's like where you like the car should be turning in, so you have the proper angle on this corner, and all that stuff. And I had two separate people come up to me and say like, "Hey, I saw how the grass changed. It completely changed that corner for me." So I was like, "Awesome, love that."
That's super cool. I never even thought of that because everyone always asks where you turn in for Deception,
Yeah.
and I never know what to say.
Oh, it's just the grass changes on the left. It's very subtle, but like if you look for it, like it's very obvious.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Totally.
So I mean, anytime I'm learning a new track, like for example, at some point in the next 6 months, I'm gonna learn Grattan, and I've never done any laps at Grattan before. And when I'm driving around on that track, I'm gonna look for where the dirt is because that's where the fast people are.
Yeah. Very true. Although Grattan,
Is it mostly dirt?
yeah, it's grassy and stuff. I'm trying to think of where you would drop tires, but I guess I don't know it that well. We'll find out together.
Ooh, maybe we'll go together and both learn it.
I can't actually. I've driven it once in a rental car, a Nissan Versa rental car. My brother and I both went to a
That's
track
Tom's
night. He was working for
experience.
me. Yeah, and I went out and did laps with him in the car. That was my only time at Grattan, but it's fun. I think Grattan's a lot of track for all these big one lap cars.
That's so I found a lap of a 992 GT3
I guess
doing.
I should say not a lot of track. Go ahead.
Yeah. Um, and it did seem like a little bit of a bowl in a china shop, which sounds like it's going to be a good time.
Right. Those things end up being so fun.
So, all right. Sorry, Tom. I just wanted to get, because I didn't take notes.
No,
You're so good at taking notes. And so I kind of bounced around a little bit about time trial nationals, but I wanted to point out the hayride thing because that was cool. I think they should do it more. I don't necessarily know if there will be like a DJ at every event, but there's got to be somebody who can talk about the racetrack that's willing to stand up in front of the trailer and talk about the racetrack.
fick it. No DJ.
Yes, you know, you're not gonna find anybody
Put your hands up.
spinning any records, but
For a moment, I did have to think about that. I was going to ask one more thing about TT Nats and I forgot.
yeah, if it comes back, you can ask it.
Yeah, I didn't have any. I didn't mean to change the topic. It was just related to the over celebrating thing.
Oh, gotcha.
These people won their gold medals, but I did the other part about the FIA games that was interesting. Not interesting. Really sad. They had what I called autocross, right? I forget what they call it. They called it like
They did have
auto
autocross.
slalom or something. Yeah, yeah. But it wasn't really autocross. I'm trying to pull up a picture. But
was it like
if you can picture
was it like a Gymkhana thing?
kind of. It was autocross, but it was picture like a large rectangle corral, kind of like a keyboard. So it's like long and narrow, and they had it divided in half, almost like Pro Solo. And then they had a course that they had to do with on each side, which sounds like it could be pretty cool, but it was really small, so it was very tight. And they were all using completely stock Hyundai Kona ends, and they had to leave all the driver aids on to keep it fair.
Why? What do you mean to keep it fair?
And then there was no clear
So-
timing.
Hold on. Are the
Hey,
are the commentators
ahead.
explaining like the intricacies of the rules down to like they have to leave the driver's aids on?
Yes, because they were trying to contextualize what was happening so hard that they made it sound so lame. And I was like, oh no, autocross is lame on an international scale. Oh no.
Now the world knows.
But but the fact that they had this little tiny thing set up. So the lamest part, obviously, so there was no timers. It seemed like they were going heads up and like first one back to a stop box one.
Okay.
It was very ride and drive, but they weren't declaring like winners and losers or anything. So like the coverage was terrible. I had no idea what was happening. But the courses were clearly not the same either.
Oh.
they were just like haphazardly kind of the same route, but they weren't the same at all. So I didn't understand what was happening, but it made me realize like the fact that this is still televised and we don't have any sort of coverage on autocross that's on camera is such a travesty.
So-
That's like so insane to me that this international thing with these stupid stock cars with these people who don't know what it is still have a video coverage and we don't.
I see this a lot with like video game stuff and like sim racing stuff. It's like you have somebody that wants to throw a competition, but they don't know enough about the competition to like fully flesh it out.
Yeah.
So like
Close.
for instance, this like sim racing thing that I qualified for last week, which I'm still qualified somehow, even though I wasn't really too happy with my lap time. It was fixed setup, and the fixed setup was like full fuel, and the qualifying session was like a half hour long. So you would just circulate for a half hour
Oh,
and
yep.
just drain fuel out of the thing. And then you would pit for fresh tires and you do 2 laps. So it took a half hour to do 2 laps. Completely unnecessary. Why?
That's exhausting.
Just give me
I remember my cousin,
Go ahead.
my cousin Sean, like way old school autocrossers remember Sean. He's the one who got me into autocross. He did a lot of iRacing and he really, 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 really wanted the world record for the Craftsman truck at Mosport because they were doing like the Craftsman truck race at Mosport. And I remember him telling me the same thing, that you can't adjust the fuel levels in the truck, but the tires are the best right out of the pit lane. So he would literally sit there to chase the world record and drain the truck out of gas over and over and over again just to get that one fresh lap at the very end where he put stickers on. And I just thought that sounded so absurd.
That does sound well, dude. I remember on
But
the
he won the
old.
world record.
Did he have the world record?
I don't remember. I just remember what he had to do. Excuse me, what he had to do to get it was pretty silly.
I remember on the older tire model for iRacing where it was like literally the best right out of the pits. you would
Hmm.
have to leave the pits, drive as slow as you can on your out lap, and then you get one flyer. And then that's how we would spend practice sessions chasing a leaderboard by being bored for 5 minutes on each out lap, trying to not put any heat in the tires whatsoever. That's how it used to be. It's so much better now. But like there's still like weird gamed nuances. I mean, if you think about real life, the second lap in the Corvette was best. And then I would have to wait how long for the tires to cool like back down and like I would have to wait till the next day. Like real life's not any better, but like it's like
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the yeah, anyways, people this thing and after that screenshot that you posted of the like the quote unquote autocross, um these Kona ends. Oh my god,
Yeah.
Tom, this looks so awful. I want to see it in
They're
motion.
little. Yeah, I wish I had it set up to play on the live stream anyway, but you can look it up. It's from the FIA Motorsports games. It's on the GT World YouTube channel. And you have to like scrub through and find all the different things because like I said there's so many different things, but it was just like it was like the Olympics where they go from like track uh to this to that to the other. It was just bouncing between they seem to have like 3 or 4 locations doing stuff. But the other cool part about the way they broadcasted this autocross stuff was because it was in this very small kind of like long narrow corral. They had a camera that it was either a drone just going up and back or it was a camera on a cable,
Yeah.
and it would start with them both from above, and then it would follow them down the course and then follow them back, so you could literally see like almost like a like a Super Mario Mario Party like mini game where the camera's like above
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're controlling your side. It almost looked like that. It was like perfectly divided right down the middle, and like the way it broadcast was actually really high potential in my opinion. It looked really like compelling, but the way they were broadcasting it was absolutely terrible.
I
Like
want
I don't know what's happening, and I do this.
where did they grab the these drivers from? Like in this like autocross auto slalom thing.
They're all representing their own countries. So you rarely hear their names, but you have like it'll be like Spain versus Estonia, and then like Latvia versus Germany. And their cars always have the livery of the country on them. I guess they were doing like multiple countries were sharing some cars, so they kept like swapping liveries on some of the GT cars or the rally cars. They were
Okay.
telling some stories like that. So it seems like I said, it doesn't seem to necessarily pull the best of the world. It seems to pull like the people who know what it is, or like it could literally be anybody from Latvia. I have no idea
Was
because they never really
America?
talk about.
Was America there?
I saw the United States on one of the sim races, but I wasn't watching religiously. It was kind of like pop in and out, see if anything interesting was happening.
Tom, I'm saying maybe me and you could go get a Olympic medal.
We could. Team USA. USA. I'm also
USA.
I get an Irish citizenship. You can be USA, I'll be Ireland.
Okay, whatever. I hope I see you in the finals.
Yeah, then we get to compete.
Yeah, that'd be so good. I'm imagining what this looks like for podcast content. Oh yeah, me and Tom, Olympic gold medalists,
We wear our medals to every event we go to in the US.
and we wear it every time we're recording the podcast.
And we were the only 2 in the race.
We'll just go do that dirt
We got to find a
buggy.
discipline. Yeah.
You think we could have taken down that kid that won the dirt buggy thing?
I mean, he was probably like 9 years old, so yeah.
Yeah, we got it, dude.
I'll take him down.
I'm gonna feel a little bit bad bullying a child, but it'll be
The
okay.
half of Spain that was there to cheer him on. I don't think we could take them on, but I could take the kid.
The half of Spain. Oh my
There were a
god.
lot of people there cheering for these 2 little kids. It was wild. And then some of the other races, they actually had like 20 GT3 cars and 20 TCR cars and stuff. Some of it was okay. But I don't know, the takeaway from all of it was like this isn't that interesting, which is kind of sad for
Yeah.
this is stuff we love.
Well, was it not interesting because like was the driving good? Like 'cause you can tell watching.
It was hard to tell.
Okay, then that's a problem with the
It
broadcasting. If you can't see the skill on display, like normal Olympics, you can see
Yeah.
how great they are.
It was more like this everything strung out in basically everything I watched so fast that it was hard to see. I could tell like the car that was winning was doing a better job than the car that was in 4th. But there wasn't like this epic racing. Although I did watch something else. You want to know what else I watched?
Oh, let's hear it.
The
This is what Tom does
the
when he's sick.
MX5 Cup.
He just
Yeah.
oh, you watched the oval race with the MX5 Cup cars.
Yeah, and
I
it was actually really compelling, but then
Was
it just
it?
turned into everybody pushing each other out of the way, and I was out. That's
Oh.
not interesting to me.
Oh, I think you might appreciate this update to the podcast, Tom. I think
What's that?
Max Verstappen lost me.
Good. What was the final straw?
So one could possibly defend his asshole driving because the rules suck. And he's just driving to the rules like any competitor would. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But what he did to Lando, where Lando literally just had to avoid getting in an accident, like by driving way off the racetrack. And then his attitude when he was like finding out that he got the penalties, I was like, all right, you're literally the villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
welcome to the light side. God, he's an asshole. It's just deeply unlikable. I'm sure he's actually completely fine, but just comes off deeply unlikable. We'd probably get along great, or we'd be mortal enemies because we all think the same way, I'm sure.
I'm sure. But that's what I'm saying. That's why I was like, I was giving him a pass because I was like, I know these passing rules in Formula One are just trash. Like they're better than they used to be. It used to be like nose ahead, like you can run them off the racetrack, and that was like complete garbage. But at least now the passing driver has to leave them room on exit. But it seems like they're not very consistent with how they actually enforce that part of the rule.
Yeah. Ivan in the live chat said the problem is FIA rotates the people who make the calls for penalties too much. That's why it's so wishy-washy.
It should be
Is
one
that true? Is
person.
there like a committee?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not gonna say that Ivan's wrong or correct. They just fired one guy or kept them from going back. So if it should be the commentators in this last race, they were having a conversation how they need to get all the drivers together and the drivers should decide what the driving etiquette should be. And I actually think that's a good idea because they're going to understand the nuances of how those cars are best raced against each other in like the most fair way possible. Right?
Yeah. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, I think a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, when you have the experience on track and you deal with someone who doesn't understand what you're dealing with, enforcing things on track from off track, basically people who are in charge and don't know what's going on. That's so infuriating. It's
to cut those people slack, I think that's really tough if you're not out there driving it because you just have this like third person view and like you just see video, but video is never like the same as like actually in the car. Or like for instance, when me and you called out a specific person that was cheating, what was this, 2020? Or was it 2021?
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so obvious when you're driving next to them that their car's way faster than everyone else's.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. It's like it's not even up for debate. It's multi-class. Like everyone else is ebb and flow. Like they might dig out a little bit better, but then toward the end of the straight, it's like you're all kind of the same, or you'll see it with the gear shifts. But if one person's just blatantly faster,
yeah, to negate all of that thing you just said rudely, I'm sorry. If everybody else is in agreement that one person is out of line or one thing is out of line, or like the majority of a field feels one way, they should be heard.
Yeah, exactly. So, because the people out there driving and competing, they're going to know best. They're going to know best. They're the ones literally doing it.
If they don't, but they're a minority, then they can be ignored.
Right.
But if it's very clear watching Formula One that there's like a majority of them that think that this other person is out of line. And like, why would you not listen to these people when a majority are coming to you? I've never understood that.
Right. So but I think the organizational challenge there is to have that conversation where it can be a collective and like constructive like process, right? Now I think you have parity or like it's fair or whatever if everyone is disagreeing like on a bunch of different things, and then you're like, okay, well then like it's good, right? But
Yeah,
if there is
it's
a
all personal
collective,
grievance.
yeah, it's all personal grievance. It's like whatever. But if everyone can come to a consensus, or at least a vast majority, I'm saying like 3/4, can come to a consensus that this thing, whether it's the rules or the parody or behavior or whatever, is out of line or whatever the opinion is, then that to me, like that should be like that should be whatever it is. Like in Formula One, if all the drivers decide like these are the racing etiquette. Whoa, guys, this is track hangover DJ right now. It's rough.
You're killing it, dude. You're powering through it.
Um, if everyone decides that this is the way it should be, then no matter what the thanks, Zach. Zach keeps spelling out words that I can't say, and it's helping. Etiquette. Thank you, Zach. um, yeah, that's what it should be. So I hope for the sake of Formula One that they figure this out, because I think they could have good racing, but they're kind of flubbing it.
Yeah, well, or they're fixing it just slowly,
I think
right?
I think the parity across the field is probably the closest it's been in like the last decade.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And like the wishy-washy like racing rules is kind of like in oops, sorry, I hit my mic. In this last race, like it seemed like there could have been some really, really good side-by-side racing, and there was just kind of people running each other off the racetrack. It's like, oh man, we almost got some racing. It's like a little
Yeah.
tease every time.
They should still just show that Formula V race, like the first half of it from the runoffs this year.
Yeah, do that.
Like, here's what a bunch of drivers who can't hit each other and know what's like have the spidey senses to know everything going around them. That kind of to the point of the MX5 race. I don't know. Do you know the format they did and everything?
No, explain the
Did you see
format.
much of it?
Nope, didn't even watch it.
It was one of those made for TV things like IndyCar did at Thermal. So it was it was a 100 lap race, but the first 50 laps, none of it counted towards the final result. So it was 50 laps of like you watch up until there's a reset and then they change tires and then they did the last 50 laps was the actual race.
So the
So
first
obviously the first half was
like
very
quali,
boring. They had like
basically.
I mean you're racing so you can pick and choose your spots and like the grid stays the same. It's not like a new race or anything. But there's no reason to like race and get crashed out because anything that happens before what am I trying to say? Yeah, there was no incentive to like push before the halfway point because it's just like nothing counts. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess the IndyCar race at Thermal was the same way. It was like a 20 lap race, but the first 10 didn't count. It's basically a way to get you to watch for half the race without having to like cover 20 laps of chaos racing. You get 10 laps of like chill racing and then 10 laps
Where
of
they
chaos.
get to plug the sponsors and talk about the driver stories and these things
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
build
So
up
they had
like the
they had
okay, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
they had the president of IMSA and they had the Mazda guy and there's this and that and the other, right? So then the real racing starts and they didn't really like snap out of sail mode, unfortunately, very quickly. So that all of a sudden this racing gets really good. And it's actually the least bump drafting slash drafting race that MX5 I've ever seen because Martinsville was so short. If you didn't know, they did a Martinsville race with MX5 Cup cars. I should have said that way
Yeah,
earlier.
which
But
is an oval
Martinsville is so
track. It's like
short.
a short track, oval track.
Yeah, they couldn't get fast enough for drafting, but they could get fast enough in like the corners looked tough enough that they were like making tiny little mistakes. So when the second half gets going, it's like, oh, this is really good. This is really good. But all it took was one guy to do the like little bump up the track and run and like slide underneath. And then that one guy had a vendetta. And then all of a sudden half the field hated each other over, in 20 laps, it's like, I don't know. Or sorry, in 50 laps of Martinsville, it's like 20 minutes, maybe. It's very short. So it goes from this epic thing to the mid pack is just vendetta. It's just hitting each other out of the way until it turns into an actual crash. But then while like the mid pack children were crashing, the top two were running like side by side all the way around the oval, and it was this like momentum thing where the outside lane kept coming back and kept coming back, and it was really really good. And then as soon as they had to go to full course for the crash, everything was just everybody trying to push each other to the front, and it turned into in my opinion, not racing. Just you might as well be hitting each other out of the way. But everyone seemed to love it, and it was actually pretty compelling. So I bet they do it again for sure.
Oh, that's so
And
weird.
maybe like, more. I just don't know what you do about, in my opinion, like bumping somebody and sliding underneath them.
Tom, is there a train
Maybe
going on in
maybe
the
is
background?
okay. There is. I'm sorry. Can
You're
you hear it
fine.
that well?
Yeah. Look, even Ivan in the chat's like train horn.
Oh, yeah, that's what I live by. Um, so I always used to say this thing at the go-kart track when I was running leagues. That was if you turn your weapon, if you turn your go-kart into a weapon, you're immediately banned. Like we're not having this, like you can't go hit somebody with your cart that's now weaponized, and we're not doing that.
I'm thinking about that the first way you were saying it. If you turn your weapon into a go-kart, you're banned.
Capiche?
You hear that? It's
They're
like
all like, Dad's really mad.
stop turning your weapon into a go-kart. I'm imagining you
Yeah.
like sitting on your like battle axe, like
Oh, it all comes back to hobby horsing. Yeah.
Yo, me and Mike were laughing so hard about hobby horsing. Oh, Tom, the Airbnb we had. Oh my God.
Is it good?
No, it was the worst Airbnb I've ever stayed in. But they had a horse that would like used to be at Myers, and we plugged it in,
Like a
and
live horse?
it worked. Like no, like
Oh,
like one
like
of
the
those
penny
penny
horse.
horses. Yeah. And we plugged it in and we rode it. So we were totally hobby horsing this weekend.
Just like on your own time at the house, just sitting on it,
So
rocking back and
I
forth.
got pretty good at it. It's all in the hips, Tom.
How come there's no videos or pictures of this?
I think Kubiak has a video, but it's probably so incriminating that he's actually not going to share it because we look
I wa-
really ridiculous.
I want to see it so bad. How is this the line? There's no way this is the line.
What do you mean?
The line of when we look too ridiculous.
Okay, I'll try to get the video.
We've done some ridiculous things.
Because
How did we get there from the goat from the?
we were
from
talking about
the-
hobby horsing.
Oh, no. Going back to the weaponizing your thing. Like it, to me, there's a difference in like a little bit of bumping and stuff, but like not maliciously, and then like weaponizing your vehicle. And I don't know how to verbalize the line, but like if I'm scrutinizing the race, I'm 100% confident in what's going on, like the difference between the two. And to me, once you weaponize your car and you're like out for a vendetta just because that other guy already hit you once, like that's so dangerous and not even close to the point of what we're doing.
Yeah, nobody else wants to be around any of that.
Yeah, like what are we doing?
Was
That's
there any
such
big
an expensive
pileups?
way. You could just get out of the car and hit each other. That's so much cheaper.
That's way cheaper. More effective too.
Yeah. Then you settle it quicker. You don't cost anybody any money except maybe your own medical bills. That's great. Do that.
Did was there any like big pileups or anything like NASCAR or
No, there were only like 20 cars in the race or something. It wasn't that many.
I'm surprised
It
that
wasn't
many
like
people
NASCAR when
signed
there's
up.
like 40 cars and it's like piling in on the crashes. It
Yeah.
was like, mild spins here and there.
I'm surprised that many people signed up because a lot of those Global MX5 Cup car drivers, they're basically just club racers with like more budget, right? So like
I would
a
bet
lot of them
that they were
own those
incentivized
cars.
to be there.
Okay. Because it's pretty high risk, you know what I mean? To like risk, basically they're risking like $100,000 or however much those cars cost. Because most
Well, there
of
was a $25,000 purse to win,
okay.
but I also bet they helped the teams be there somehow. Whether they paid the teams a little bit of like travel stipend, or I bet the drivers themselves probably didn't feel it, but I know that teams will be incentivized to go to certain things sometimes.
Okay. And then they're like, yeah, sure, I guess I'll do that. Whatever, I'll be on TV.
Well, yeah, because if they had 6 MX5s, it would look really bad.
Right.
So if they're going to do it, they're going to make sure it looks successful.
Well, yeah.
At least
Well, they're not going to do it
at the level of
unless,
IMSA.
yeah, they're not going to do it at all unless they think they can get some kind of show.
Exactly.
Yeah. They would float the idea, see that the idea had no legs, and then just never talk about it again.
The idea is in a wheelchair. No. Why did I think of that?
I don't know. Is that so?
Anyway.
So that's what you spent your weekend doing? Is watching Mazda
I
oval racing?
Yeah. I mean, that's not the only thing I did. I spent a lot of time sleeping and sitting on my patio.
Nice. You get any sim
There
racing
was some
in?
race. What do you think?
I don't know. That sim rig behind you is looking pretty good.
Looking pretty dusty. Although I have been motivated by Eric Catil recently to maybe get that thing up again because he wants to do some Assetto Corsa. We have a mod that you can drive around the actual highways of Tokyo. DJ's done it before. It's pretty cool.
I forgot what
And
it's
you can like
called.
street race and stuff. It's called
Shintoko? Shintuku?
Zach will type it out for you.
Thanks, Zach.
It's called Shutoko.
Is it Shintoko?
Yeah.
Hey, I remember that. Nice.
Should we do a question before we finish up?
Yeah, let's do a question. Tom, can you do it? My brain's starting to fall away.
Can't.
I've had such a hard time focusing. Guys, what somebody needs to explain to me the science of a track hangover so I can like help like combat it, cuz it's just the brain is just not focusing on anything today. You know how impossible like work was today, Tom? It was so hard.
Yeah, I can't. Well, that's why I stopped going to work after Mondays on racetracks. after weekends at racetracks. Man,
if I could have just laid around and did nothing today, oh my god, that sounds amazing.
Do you have one good bellow in your lungs left?
Yeah. After I don't know who it was, but it made me smile and laugh on the inside. But I was coming off of the podium with my trophy, and somebody in the crowd went emails. So I enjoyed that. Thank you for that. All right,
that's awesome.
Emails. All right,
that's a good one. All right, so we have a lot of comments from this weekend. Tim Brewski would like to know, DJ, are you a Corvette guy now? Now that you are, what does Jeremy Swenson think of this? I hear all Asphalt Motorsports are great for these vehicles. Similarly, Chip Manuel says, yes, DJ needs a vet. And then Tim Govier added in, excellent work at TT Nats, DJ. Corvette, question mark, exclamation point. DJ, what do you think about Corvettes?
I can't afford a Corvette, guys. Even the cheap ones, I can't afford one of those. You know what? It's for how old a C5 is, it is a very, very nice racetrack car. Especially the one that Mike put together. It's just a very, very nice car. It's way nicer than it should be. But if I had to choose, I think I'm more of a Porsche person myself. I don't know. I've gotten the taste, and now I've been ruined.
Would you say that's in all contexts, or just on track, or
on track?
Okay.
I don't care about cars in any other capacity. Tom, I drive an electric car.
I think Porsche people on track, not Porsche people off track, is the perfect combo. You ever seen that thing? Have you ever seen that thing it's the United States divided into quarters?
Yeah.
And it's like axe nice is nice in some sections, and then axe mean is nice.
Yeah.
That's you, except divided in half. It's like racetrack half, Porsche guy. Non-racetrack half, not Porsche guy.
Not Porsche guy. Yeah. But yeah, it's man, for what that, so I mean, you could recreate Mike's car for like $40,000. And the times it was running at NCM for $40,000 is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy how fast those things go with very few modifications. It was just headers, tune, intake manifold, coilovers, aero, and then like bushing stuff. Oh, and then he put a different, put like a base C5 transmission in. That's it for like different gear ratios.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It does really make a lot of sense. And honestly, you're not that far off like a base Corvette if you sold the FRS. But I don't think you should do that.
No. Well, I can't afford to put tires. It had 315 tires in all four corners, and that would be like that'd be all disposable income on one set of tires.
Dude, people don't talk about that a whole lot. But when I bought the Camaro, luckily I bought the Camaro from Danny Kao in 2018, and he had an additional set of everything that I was going to use during the time I had it, minus tires, which you got me from a dumpster. Thank you.
Oh,
and
I got bad news about that.
I realized, what?
That track record that you set at NCM with those tires that I found in a dumpster was finally broken this weekend.
Oh, good for whoever did that. what was it? Oh, that I realized if I had to buy all the things, like I went through a set of brake pads, I went through a set of tires, I went through a set of what else do you use in a car? Something else. I don't
Tires,
remember, but I
tires,
realized how
brakes.
expensive it would have been if I had not had those spares sitting around. And then when I got to the end of those spares, I just stopped driving it on track because I didn't want to buy all the expensive stuff to get it back ready for being on track.
Yep. So,
Um, yeah, fast cars are expensive.
all right. Do we have any emails that
This
ask a question?
Yeah, this is a good one.
Okay.
This is good lighthearted note to end on from David. I've been debating a couple years what concise little quip I should put on my note card taped to my steering wheel. I never came up with anything that I thought would be useful until your podcast. I don't remember what episode, a current one or from back in the catalog, but it doesn't matter which. It's both of your attitudes as a whole that made me realize this is what I needed. And it is a postcard or like a flashcard taped to a steering wheel that says, "Look ahead, stay constructive." I like that. The last bit is, and that with that out of the way, my question: what's the funniest or best thing you've seen tape someone tape to their wheel or dash? So he has, yeah, look ahead, stay constructive. Those are. I'm curious what the constructive part.
Like probably constructive
uh,
to himself. Like instead of
Like,
like beating himself up, you like, okay, yeah, that didn't go how I wanted it to, but like, what could I have done better? Rather than like your brain jumps to, oh, I suck at this.
yeah, I like that. Okay,
That's
that's kind of
that's
how
what
I would
I'm
take it too.
thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Um, I've seen stickers on people's dash where it says like "Go fast, don't die." I always think that's kind of fun because like that nobody like like people will say things that like will like put them in the trigger like it's go time. So, but I'm
Uh
just
huh.
imagining somebody that's like "Go fast, don't die." It's like what? No, nobody says that.
Or even better, okay, you're at the autocross, or these people that the starter tells them they can go, and then they've got to like wring the steering wheel out a couple
Yep,
times,
yep.
crack their neck, crack every knuckle, wiggle the shifter, put it in first, bring it to
Wiggle
the
the
right amount of
shifter.
RPMs, sit there, look back up at you, double check that it's okay to go, and then they can go.
Yep.
I'm picturing all of that, but the last thing they do is look down and go, and don't die.
Go fast, don't die, and then they drop the clutch.
Yeah.
I love that. Uh,
I had a wild one that was a very big reality check that I was getting in this car. This is like Grid Life South 2017 or 18. We're at Road Atlanta. Some friends of ours with a Time Attack Subaru asked me to drive the car and give them some feedback on it. And it's like an unlimited car that's very much garage built and doesn't necessarily have the best reputation of reliability, but is like theoretically super, super fast. So I'm already a little like, yes, but like I'm gonna know that I have to feel it out. So the next morning I get to the car and I'm supposed to drive it, and they're using, okay, so context, they asked me to drive it because it felt weird, especially in straights. And we talked about
that's good
like
omen.
things shifting, and we were talking about like how to get suspension components to stop shifting, because if they get loose and they're moving and the car's wandering down the straights and stuff. So they determined that the best thing to do was to weld all the suspension adjustable components in place so they couldn't wander. And then they didn't really have the best way to do an alignment after that. So they were using a race ramp and trying to get the race ramp, when sitting flush with the wheel lip, to be pointed roughly with the bodywork of the car. This was their morning alignment before I drove the car, and no one was going to drive it before me. So I get in this car and I look up, and on the cage across the title of the top of the cage, it said in like craft letters, "Nothing in this car is worth your life." And I was like,
That's the reminder.
that's right, actually. So I was
Yeah.
like high alert. And like I went out and it was no problem. There's a video of me driving it on either my YouTube channel or some other channel. But yeah, getting that little like look up, nothing in this car is worth your life. They're aligning it with race ramps. Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think? Do you tell yourself anything before you go out?
No, I always do like a stare forward, and I kind of I focus on the windshield and then I focus through the windshield. I don't know why I do that. And I kind of take my deep breath. That's before like I let the clutch out. in grid. That's what I'll do in grid. I don't really do anything in autocross. Um, I like the productive ones. I like the quick reminders that give you something that maybe when you're looking, the only time you're looking at it is in grid or on the straight.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it on the straight, you've got a lot of bandwidth. So something to either give you the one thing that you need to hear right before you go out when you look at it on grid, or maybe the one thing that you need to remember if your brain is gone and you're like going down the back straight. But I don't think anything past like the be constructive thing. I think that's like if you need to hear that and you figured that out, that's awesome. But having like notes for every corner, I've seen some people want that and things.
Or
Like,
like
no,
a
no, no,
track
that's
map
not
on
going
the
to do
wheel.
anything.
I always think that's a little weird.
You know, I've never got the track map thing. What is that about? Because that's like kind of a pro car thing.
Yeah, I think it's like probably like if they call out corner numbers, then like you can look down and be like, wait, which one's 4? Which one's 5?
I guess, but I can't imagine not knowing the numbers.
That's what I'm
Maybe I just
saying.
have a weird brain.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, look, if I'm driving a GT3 car at Spa, I'm going to know all the corner numbers before I even do my first lap.
Maybe it's a reality for some of these people that they're in so many different cars in so many different countries all the time that they can't. Maybe they can't remember.
Or
I
maybe
don't
they
know.
don't even have time to, like, they're like, I'll learn the corner numbers when I'm doing laps, and that little note card will help me.
But also, they only do the same 17 tracks every year. They all do Daytona, then they go to Bathurst. They all do Macau eventually. It's like, you know, the corner
I think
numbers.
I
So
would
I
need
don't
a
get that.
I think I would need a note card of Macau if they were like, yeah, corner 34, you were something something, and I'm like, okay, wait, which one was 34?
Yeah, is that the hairpin?
Yeah.
If you have a track map in your car and you use it for something productive, let us know because I
Yes.
can't make that one work for me.
Yes, please let me know. I think the most useful one that I continually see in cars is turn traction control off.
Oh, that's a good one. I do like a punch list. Ryan Power is really good about this. He's got one taped to the top of his roof and it's like laminated and it's like a punch list that's for grid. I'm down with that too. But yeah, TC off is smart or something constructive for yourself.
Yeah, or whatever you need. If you guys have something and you would like to share it, please share it. I like seeing David's here because I think other people see that and they go, you know what? Like maybe if they don't even post that on their steering wheel, they're like, I should remind myself to look ahead and stay constructive.
Mhm.
All right, Tom, let's call it an episode.
You got a little time to recoup before you're coaching. What are you doing this weekend?
This weekend, I'm going to vote on Saturday because I'm traveling on actual election day. So thank goodness for early voting. And then I'll probably do an autocross on Sunday at Akron. You should come, Tom.
I'm going to be at NCM again,
Oh,
but not again because I didn't go the first time.
what are you doing at NCM?
There's a binge track day, Drew Turner's track days. And I just wanted to go. So I saw it on the calendar way earlier this year and I put it on my calendar.
Oh, that would be fun. Also, I'm coaching on Thursday and Friday. I'm out of vacation days at work,
Mhm.
but I'm taking unpaid time off of work to go coach on Thursday and Friday at VIR. So
Dude, that's awesome. Is this your first go to a track and coach somebody at the track for
I've
them
I've
privately
yeah,
thing?
it is. I've coached people at the racetrack, but I also happen to be at the racetrack. This is like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, let's I'm gonna get to VIR and then we're going to work on the things that we need to work on when we're at VIR.
Yeah.
So it'll be pretty
That's
cool.
exciting. Where are you traveling next Tuesday? Am I allowed to know that?
It's SEMA.
Oh, it's SEMA week. It's your favorite, bud. How
Oh,
excited are
dude,
you?
we gotta figure something out for the podcast, Tom. When are we gonna do
We do.
that?
We'll figure it out off air.
Okay.
We can
I
wrap
just
it
thought
up.
of it. I'm panicking now. Maybe we have to do something during the week. Oh shit, you're gonna be at that track day.
We can either do Sunday night, Monday. We'll figure it out. We've had worse.
Oh, we could do.
I like how I did it. I did it 5 different places in the last 6 weeks, and you're like traveling once. You're like, what are we gonna do?
All right, Tom. I'll just call into you. Do you want me to drop off the podcast machine and you can do it?
Oh, I forgot. I forgot you have the machine.
Yeah, that's the problem.
All right. Well, next week's gonna be interesting. Make sure you turn back. Turn back in, guys. It's time for this to be over.
Tom's track hangover's kicking in.
My sick brain's out of energy.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. There will probably be an episode next week. I mean, that would suck to break the streak at 120. So
That's not gonna happen.
that's not gonna happen. If we have to call in and we edit this thing on my phone and I sing the intro music, there will be an episode.
It's only Monday. We got 12 days to figure it out.
Well, really, like, are you going to be home on Saturday or are you going to be at the track thing?
I'll be at the track. We can figure this out later.
All right.
They
We'll
don't even
figure this
listen
out.
to
All
this.
right. We're just going to end the episode. All right. Tom, send us out.
Okay, goodbye, everybody. I'm kidding. Hey, everyone who made DJ feel special this weekend, I love your hair and I hope you win.